What a lovely day! Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Original D-Rose, 10th Man Rising, The Adam Meekin, Eli, Neil, Chocolate Sane, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Yeah. Let's get it on.
Hey, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, good to have you all. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Hold on. I need to qualify that. The actual sun or the sun on a piece of paper?
The sun that we see in the sky, the bright light
Oh, okay.
that many worship.
The one that causes cancer?
I don't know that that's true, but there we go. Let's just not get into this, please. It's just started. Any evidence or scientific evidence of gravity?
What's gravity?
Well, it's not a force. I know that much.
According to Whitsitt, you could have the same effects with electrostatics.
What effects?
You can make orbits and everything.
Hold on. According to Whitsitt, you can have the same effects. What effects are they?
So
Things going down, things hovering.
What? That's an effect of things going down. What, like the clouds and helium balloons and that?
The same effect of something that doesn't exist? Those effects? What are you talking about?
If he thinks that there's a downward effect in effect, then what about the stuff going up?
Wait, I'm confused. Is gravity an effect or a cause?
It's neither. It's literally nothing. There's nothing to describe as a phenomena to study. And if you say, well, things go down, I can just do what I just did. Yes, some things go up. So why are you explaining the down when you've also got the up?
The answer to gravity is electrostatics.
But what's gravity? When you say things tend towards the ground, no, they don't. What about the clouds and the helium balloons?
Maybe somebody needs to invent a new word. Because if you just say gravity is things going down, but things go down and up, then you need a new word for things going up.
Hold on a second.
Perhaps
the new
anti-gravity?
boy's causing audio chaos. D-Rose, you can't sit off mute. D-Rose.
I'm trying to get your attention because
You don't do it like that.
He's waiting.
Don't do it like that. Just wait. All you're doing is causing absolute audio chaos because you've just decided you want to talk. So what, we're going to hear your background noise indefinitely till you do? No, don't do that. Go ahead. Whoever it was that's talking. D-Rose, this is an opportunity for you to talk, ironically.
Arwen is asking me through Master B to please someone, let someone know, let him in. He's waiting for permission to enter.
Okie dokie, I'll let him in now.
He wrote, WTF is this?
Okay, you're helping me with my admin, thank you.
See, Nathan, you jumped the gun and the guy's just trying to help out.
I've got a massive headache, I'm on a short fuse, get lost.
I got thick skin, I can take it. I got thick skin, I can take it.
So,
Causing commotion already, are we?
we're not causing
Hey, man,
gravity.
We just proved what we were talking.
That's for
We
sure.
just proved what we were talking about. Nathan's blowing up and D-Rose is going down.
Right, some things go up, some things go down, some things remain neutral. Therefore, to say I need to explain the effect of things going down, what, but while simultaneously ignoring the effects of things going up and things not doing anything? Because generally speaking, and I do mean generally speaking, nothing's going up or down, with the exception of the clouds. So I'm going to say with an overarching tendency that in terms of what things are doing, now I'm going to ignore the cyclical part where that cloud turns into stuff coming back down, because I'm just going to do the opposite to what they do, which is to say, well, actually, no. As I look around me, absolutely nothing's going down. Like, literally nothing. Nothing's going down. Okay, but...
Sounds like everything's going up, like the whole Earth is rising up.
What, if everything's going up, wouldn't that tend to suggest that the Earth's falling? Because of everything going away from the Earth that's falling? With the tendency of the clouds to go up and all that? No, it doesn't. It ignores the fact that some things do go down, like the rain. Yeah? That's what it does. So you can ignore the fact that some things go up and say that the Earth's falling by ignoring all the things that do go down or remain neutral. But I'm not going to do that. It's absurd. And for me to take that stance means I now have an utterly absurd, totally outrageous claim that the Earth's falling. Now, does it matter if I convolute that with Earth's falling at a continual rate or an accelerating rate? No, it doesn't make any difference. It's still utterly absurd for me to say that simply based on the fact that I can see things literally going up all day long, clouds, therefore the bloody ground beneath my feet's falling away with me attached to it. Utterly absurd.
Yeah. Can you guys excuse me for a minute? I got to go back in time and predict that this is going to happen. All right, I'll be back in a couple seconds.
I'd already done it. So I did this 2-3 weeks ago, actually, AI. The same absurd stance.
That's what ends up happening. You're describing when somebody's trying to figure out this gravity, they end up coming to the conclusion that everything's rising up. Therefore, we must be in free fall as a whole.
Yep. You just move the scale, right? So if neutrality is found at 0, everybody would say that's perfectly reasonable. Would anybody object if I say, when I say bugger all's happening, nothing's going down or up as I sit in this room? Would everybody agree that I can ascribe a 0 to that neutral?
So you have the extraordinary claim of a stationary Earth?
Yeah, Nathan, are you claiming stationary?
Nobody's answering me. I'll try one more time.
Describe 0.
So if I say neutrality is 0, that's reasonable by everybody? Anybody disagree that that's reasonable?
No.
Except for the gas in the room that
sorry,
you're in.
nobody's disagreeing. Hold on.
Right?
Somebody else has obviously got a really important point to make through the top of this one. Go ahead, all of you, at once.
Are you claiming stationarity?
Don't need quips. I'm making a bloody example reel.
Point.
Go on. That sounds like Adam's actually got something to say. Go ahead.
When you say all things would be 0,
that's not what I said.
Assume...
No, that's not what I said.
Okay,
generally speaking, generally in my general vicinity, things aren't moving up or down, and I'm going to call that specific scenario experience now 0, neutral.
When we're discussing solids and liquids, I assume it's just those 2 specific phases, not
No.
the
I'm going to say that in regards to everything in my room, all of the gases, everything is just generally neutral.
I would have a different definition of neutral for solids and liquids than I would gases.
Bastard. So you're saying it'd be relative then?
Relative to the phase state, yeah.
And relative to the medium around whatever it is we're describing and its phase also. So there's 2 different phases of the density of the item or the phase it's in, and the same for the medium, correct?
Yeah.
I didn't want to go there yet.
Happy with a word of equilibrium.
You're ruining my oversimplification, though.
Sorry.
My oversimplification is for example's sake. But there we go. I mean, you are correct, Adam. Let's not be taking away from the overarching point, which is yours and far more important than my example. Shout out to Godzilla before I do anything else. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says, I haven't shouted out chocolate in a while. Just saying. Very good. Thank you for the super chat.
Let me give you the word equilibrium.
Just let me make the end of my point. I've only got about 20 seconds. Right. So if... get to the conclusion that I'd got to previously. Nobody's objecting to me calling that neutral. Adam has now objected, which is kind of a bit of a bummer. But if we go on the pretense that everybody's agreed and nobody's disapproving of me saying that nothing happening is 0, right? Falling would be like +1, right? Jumping -1, or the other way around, whichever way you want to put the scale. It doesn't really matter. It's arbitrary, right? But in a gravitational scale, doing nothing is not zero. What's doing nothing in a gravitational scale where we've slid it slightly in one direction?
I'll tell you. The correct answer in a gravitational scale is accelerating in the opposite direction of the vector of gravity.
No, but we can ascribe that a number in simplistic terms and a letter.
Yep. Net force 0.
No, not the effect you described of the description on its arbitrary scale. I'll just tell you, it's 1 rather than 0. 1g. So when you're stuck to the ground doing nothing, not falling, not jumping, that's 1. Is it? No, they've just slid the scale. What seems reasonable at 0 is now, oh no, perfectly reasonable to assume there's a force effect that makes you at 1 pulling you down towards the ground, stopping you flying off. So the outrageous claim would be, unless I assume that this scale slides up to 1 rather than 0, we'd fly off the bloody Earth. But that's essentially what they're saying. And then absolutely nothing happening turns into a force of 1g. Seem reasonable now? 1g, right? Being held to the ground suddenly with a force. Because nothing happening is now a force. That's all gravity is. Meanwhile, some things go up. That's the end of that argument. Oakley dokley. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Hang on, I didn't get to say my piece on the previous one. So, since we're in a closed system, and we have the cycles, how do we describe that? Some things go down, some things go up, and some things stay neutral, right?
Cycle.
Because we're in a closed system.
Just a cycle.
Yeah, but in a closed system, that can happen. In an open system, which is NASA's viewpoint and the Glober's viewpoint, where you got the vacuum of space right next to gas pressure that violates natural law, all that gas pressure would go into the available vacuum right next to it if it was an open system, and we'd all be dead, right?
Yeah, but it's much quicker to describe. I mean, if you describe what we actually experience in a closed system, where you can have gas going up, condensing into the water that comes back down, making puddles, being heated up by the sun, going back up again. Well, that's quite a long-winded explanation. Now, in the heliocentric model, that system would be simply described as gas goes up,
That's it. You're right.
Wonderful.
yeah,
I
that's
want to
it.
criticise your new G scale, just like I criticise your 0 scale. Again, I would suggest to you that even if I'm going to allow you that scale, I'd have to point out to you that, again, it's only applicable to solids and liquids, your scale. It's not considered in the gaseous state. In fact,
Yes,
it's
correct.
denied to have any effect.
I had the same. I
Yeah.
had the same objection when
Yes.
he was asking, "Does everybody agree it's 0, or does everybody agree it's neutral?" I say, "Well, except for the gas in your room. Other than that, I agree." But
For the sake
I
of
got
my
cut
example,
off,
I had
so-
to give a Weasley response to that and say, yes, total lie. I consider the gas to be neutral. It's bollocks, right? But for my oversimplistic example where it's not relative to the medium, and I just describe a scale so I can then juxtapose that with the single non-relative to densities of mediums scale of gravity, with 1 pulling things down towards the Earth. Until it enters a different medium, then it might bloody float. You know what I mean? Anywho, let's get on with the...
The G scale is supposed to be pulling everything towards a center point. It's only when it's a solid or a liquid. It accepted it doesn't do it. Mass doesn't attract mass. Mass doesn't fall down a bending of space-time if it's in a gaseous state.
Hey, gas don't go down, go boom boom, go splash splash.
Just
No.
gas. That's all it does.
Goes everywhere, all
I
directions.
heard.
That's fine.
Can I tell you what I heard? That you can have mass attracting mass. it can be demonstrated.
I appreciate you.
Right. So the giant mass of Earth is attracting all those clouds, is it? Yeah. We've got about 56 people watching, which is wonderful, as we haven't been long going. 15 minutes or so. So please share the show. The only reason there's 50 people watching, or 50 or more people watching, is because there's been people regularly watching the show that share all the time. So really appreciate all of you who have smashed the share button. That's why we've got over 50 people watching. Be great to get to 100. So if you've just joined us, thank you very much for doing so. You've probably come from a link that someone else shared. Please do the same and share the show so that we get 100 people watching. Go ahead.
Hang on, Nathan. What that thing that Neil just said. I have never seen a larger object attract a smaller object in
Yes,
nature.
electrostatics.
Can you show it to me?
Said 320.
That's what Whitson said. I'm just
Neil, are
going
you,
by
are
what
you
he
Alright,
said.
obsessed
hold
with
on,
this
hold on.
crap or what?
But
On
the
the
cause
phone.
of that, hold on. When you say, yeah, but I've seen electrostatics do that. What, as in the causal influencer would be the electrostatic forces then? So you've already got the cause established. But what, it's then going to become a mass attracting mass, all things attracted to the Earth bias down when the causal attribution has already been ascribed in the title. Electrostatic forces then, Neil?
I
Opposite
That's what he
charge
said.
is attracting. It's already been defined as the cause, not mass. Opposite charge.
Yeah, but I see a magnet do the same thing, but that's not gravity.
Yeah, magnetic
charge.
forces. We all good, Neil?
I can't talk.
Yes.
Hope so. Okay,
He's in the car. He's in the car with his brother talking, so he can't talk.
I see. So today's video choice is by 10th Man, and it's apparently so we can juxtapose this with the flat Earth dissemination of Earth rising. So we'll get into it straight away.
When I was
Well, we won't, because I'm going to ask you, the audience, to share the algorithmic love with whoever this is. I don't actually know. EdwardCurrant, and let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a nice polite comment in respect to the fact that we have responded to their video. And the selfish motivation behind this, I will be perfectly honest, is that this YouTuber, Edward, would hopefully respond and do the same for me. Give me some algorithmic love where YouTube don't. So please share. Don't share. Go to his video and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Hopefully he'd do the same for me. Now we can get on with it.
As a kid, I was told that gravity happens because the Earth is like a magnet. It took me decades to understand Einstein's modern explanation of gravity.
Okay, straight off the bat. So while we talked about forces, now Earth is like a magnet. Well, that would mean it's got a force, right? Well, there's the lie, straight off the bat. Yeah, you were told that the giant ball Earth that doesn't exist exhibited a force like a magnet. Well, no, it doesn't. That would mean that mass is attracting mass. But we can debunk that your first misapprehension given to you from childhood, which is why you still have it, that the Earth is attracting things like a magnet. Really? Well, the sky has got clouds in it. Are they being pulled down because they've got mass? And the very large mass of Earth surely would have a huge influence on those clouds. Right? Oh, no, that's them going up from the ground, isn't it? Away from the ground, away from the force, defying the force. There isn't a force. Quote, George Musa, Scientific American. Gravity is not a force. So it's definitely not like a magnet, because that is a force. Comprende?
Which I put into my award-winning video.
It's just drop something. So what, like Newton dropping an apple? Oh, really? So that needs explaining how all these things get dropped. Steps away from mic for visual gag. So we've got to worry about this, have we? This apple being dropped would infer that we have a force that we need to worry about. Yeah, you see, there's only one problem with that. It infers that all things tend towards the ground, when in reality, they don't. Some things go up.
How gravity makes things fall. But people still
So did my helium balloon just fall? It didn't look like it fell to me. See, that undoes your argument. That's the end of it. Some things don't go down. So explaining the force of down is irrelevant when things aren't doing that. Generally speaking, nothing's doing anything. Now, I had to go and retrieve that balloon from the ceiling. You know, it's just stuck there the whole time. Was gravity just overcome by a little bit of Teflon and a bit of helium? No, it wasn't. No, definitely not. Or foil or whatever it is it's made of. No, just things aren't tending towards the ground unless you pick them up and drop them.
We'll ask where the force of gravity comes from.
There isn't one. Quote George Musa. Gravity is not a force. Quote Brian Cox. There isn't really a force of gravity at all. So what are we asking? Where there isn't really a force of gravity at all comes from? It comes from idiots.
But look how he's already miscategorized what he's talking about, right? Didn't he call this Einstein's modern version of gravity?
No, don't miss it.
No, he said he took him a long time to understand it. I'm gonna place a pound on him not understanding pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending. What do you reckon? Do you reckon he does understand it?
Well, I've watched the video. So he is explaining how he grew up with the teaching of gravity being a pulling force down. And he's about to jettison that because finally he understood what Einstein was saying. So because one's not real, he's got to replace it with something else that's not real.
Right, on Divergent Droid. 61 watching. Please share the show. 63 people watching. Obviously, there's some shares gone out. Please share the show if you just joined us. But yeah, exactly. He's going to go through the motions of saying he understands what Einstein replaced the non-force force that you can think of as a force with, right? Well, does he understand it, though? At the end of the video, do you get the impression that he understands what pseudo-Riemannian force space-time in the pseudo-concept of this dimension that we don't experience and doesn't exist beyond Einstein's mass is? Does he understand that, would you say?
Yes, I would say it in this way. Him and Dell would have good coffee together.
If something is accelerating, that requires a force.
Right, like gravity pulling it down. So my balloon was accelerating upwards.
So gravity must be a force, right?
No, gases defy that.
It's not.
Yeah, we know. Nor is it a bending space-time dimension.
Isaac Newton described it as a force, but today we say that when something falls and accelerates, no force...
Oh, really? Is this what we say when something falls and accelerates? What about the things that don't do that? Like the balloon I just released. Did that fall and accelerate? No, it didn't, did it?
Force is making it do that.
No, it was bullshit. It's overcome by gas behavior.
Even more counterintuitive, the acceleration of gravity is actually upward.
No, there is no gravity. It isn't a force, and it's not pushing anything or in any direction. Neutrality could be described as zero if you ignore the medium that would make the directionality specific.
It's not downward.
Not any direction. Down is relative. In this case, relative to a medium.
First, consider a situation where there is no gravity.
I don't have to have any considerations to do that. None is required. So when you say consider a situation where what? Rather than me saying there is 1g when I sit here doing nothing, it's 0. Okay? It's 0. Nothing's changed. Absolutely sod all. Oh, right, but in your mind, the scale moves back the other way, does it? So instead of being 1g, it's 0g, which you think's falling around in an orbital motion. Yeah, because you're an idiot programmed with 0g being falling.
Things move about freely with...
Do they? What, when we don't have a non-force of pseudo-bent space-time, things move around freely? That's an outrageous claim that you'd have to demonstrate for me to swallow any little bit of that. But in your mind, sliding the scale from 1g to 0 means things now fly around freely. So, but for your pseudo-force space-time bending, things would fly around like Superman? No, they would not. No, this arbitrary description of a pseudo-dimension bending has absolutely no effect on anything. So taking it away won't make things fly around.
No force is being applied to them.
Nathan,
There wasn't any
please.
anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, back a little bit. Not that you have to go back, but he said Isaac Newton, excuse me, said, no, I have a quote and mastered if you want to put it up. Isaac Newton never said it was C.V. Boyce and Jean Michel, I believe, right?
Indeed. A quick shout out to Godzilla, who gifted 5 memberships. But if you want to read that out, I'll stick up on screen.
Yeah. It is inconceivable that an inanimate brute matter should, without the mediation of something else which is not material, operate upon and affect other matter without mutual contact, as it must be. If gravitation, in the sense of Epicurus, be essential and inherent in it, and this is one reason why I desired you would not ascribe innate gravity to me, which is what this guy just did. He ascribed gravity to Newton, and Newton is saying in a letter to his friend, don't do this. Okay,
But,
gravity should be innate in there.
We'll give Edward the correction, and you've already given him, but I'll reiterate it, which is it's Reverend John Michel, C.V. Boyce, and Cavendish gravity that he's referring to. You don't ascribe this to Newton. He'd turn in his grave.
That gravity should be innate, inherent, essential to matter, so that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else, by and through which their action and force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has the philosophical matters and competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into it. Except this guy did, until he's going to go to his new fallacious reasoning.
Oh, to put it another way, Newton saying you'd have to be a real idiot to believe this nonsense. I can't believe, in fact, that anybody would believe this nonsense. This guy we're covering now absolutely believed this nonsense. Why? Well, because his school teacher told it to him. Therefore, it had to be believed. Right? Then he later found out, oh, it's not a force like a magnet. Did he go and berate the teacher for lying to him with incorrect misinformation and disinformation about the world he lived in? No, he made a little YouTube video about his own bloody ignorance, didn't he?
Gravity must be caused by an agent acting constantly according to certain laws, but whether this agent be material or immaterial, I have left open to the consideration of my readers. End quote.
That's Newton. Those are Newton's words.
I like the way you said it better, Nathan.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, well, if gravity doesn't exist, we'd experience things moving freely and randomly in all directions. That's entropy. So we experience entropy, therefore gravity does not exist.
Right, you can spin it on its head. Yes, you can. So if we're experiencing the arrow of time and decay, yeah, things flowing towards time, death, if you will, then we don't have a force in effect, because in his mind, without gravity, that's what we experience. Yeah, we do experience things flowing towards their destiny and decaying as they do.
In physics,
yeah, that
this
was
kind
his
of
admittance, I would think. That was, gravity doesn't exist. Just plain and simple.
Nah, what I think I'm right. It's never that, they're never that deep and complicated, these globe believers. He just thinks things would fly around if we didn't have a force holding us down. That's what he's actually saying.
an emotion is called inertial. Things are moving or not moving by way of their own inertia only. If we're observing something while we ourselves are moving about inertially, we say that we are in an inertial frame of reference. Objects moving inertially, as measured in an inertial reference frame, travel at a constant velocity. Nothing is accelerating. This is captured in Newton's first law of motion.
The laws of motion of Newton were not right.
There's no way to define what's moving and what isn't. All motion is relative. And if we want to say that an object is at rest, we have to specify that it's at rest relative to some reference frame.
As opposed to the medium.
Measured against a different reference frame.
Rather than the medium.
That same object might be moving. There's no such thing as absolute motion or absolute rest. But now suppose that we fire up an engine and begin to accelerate in one direction. From inside our spaceship, now things have changed. We can tell that we're no longer in an inertial reference frame.
Can we? See, an inertial reference frame is merely a mathematical convention describing something. But you're saying that we can reify that mathematical convention and say that we now know we're not in it. No, you just accelerate in a rocket.
If we release an object, it begins to move as if a force is acting on it. It accelerates. But no such force actually exists.
What if you dropped a helium balloon in this contained system? Would it still do the same thing?
The object is just floating freely, and the spaceship is speeding up around it.
Really? So if I released a gas into the area, it would tend towards the rockets tending away from the ground? No, it would just expand in all directions, every vector. Yeah? So you're saying relative to the rocket's acceleration, yeah, this way with an arrow, just in case we didn't understand which way the rocket's going. What about gases? They expand in all directions, all vectors. So that kind of craps all over this, really, doesn't it? This description of reference frames and how things will move relative to them. But you're taking something that's conventional, a mathematical description, and working outside of that description that should only be used within the maths. Quick shout out to Unisox Femo. There is no possibility to be stationary. Wow. Yeah, exactly.
The ship's walls are now constituted.
Demonstration, mate. He's had to go to space, hasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, to make his demonstration. He can't do this on the Earth because it just drops, doesn't it? Whether he knows where he is, whether he's locked himself in a box or not, he just drops the apple, yeah. Or let's go the helium balloon. It does the same thing each time. There is no change. The only way he's trying to invoke this thought,
thought experiment.
This example, this thought example is to take you into the imaginary medium of space. So there is no up, down, left, right whatsoever. You're just floating in space. It's not real to make this analogy to then apply acceleration to the rocket, to pretend that that is where directionality of things is coming from or how RDD is played out. He's had to go away to a place fundamentally that doesn't exist. Now they're going to describe that as no gravity, i.e. not on the Earth. But this place doesn't exist. These effects don't exist.
Right.
But that's what's going to be used to exemplify relativity.
It's to slide the scale back to zero. So instead of zero, nothing's happening in a simplistic way, ignoring gas behavior, then suddenly, well, to get us back from our always in effect gravity that we can't get away from, because we're at 1G always, aren't we, lads? Yeah, definitely always got a force. Well, in order to get away from that and push the scale back to a 0 point, where you're in a in a reference frame and you don't know what's moving with respect to your movement, then you're at 0. Now, I mean, you could describe that being akin to falling around a sphere perpetually. But that's 0G that you're now in. You know, now you're in that frame of reference, in your rocket, in space. Okie dokie, moving on.
Well, no, that helps, doesn't it? Now you understand why it makes more sense to be at 1G when you sat on your chair.
Right. Yeah, it's
Nathan,
it's justifying the sliding of the scale. That's all it is. Go ahead, AI.
No, it's Sasha.
Go ahead, Sasha.
He said there is no such thing like stationary.
Yeah, in his thought experiment.
Or something. Yeah, but what that... I have a question. Why we have the word stationary then?
I was just thinking that.
You're not thinking in an Einsteinian fourth dimensional way there, Sasha. That's your problem.
Okay.
Constituting an accelerated or non-inertial reference frame. And in that reference frame, inertial objects appear to accelerate in the opposite direction. One of Einstein's brilliant...
Yeah, ignoring gas behavior.
Just a side note.
Say again, Chocolate?
Just a quick side note. Did a Glober just claim 2 reference frames? Maybe we should send out a reminder to a certain somebody who thinks.
No. He didn't claim to. What he did was he described what an inertial reference frame would be. So you're watching something and the movement is in apparent terms through the inertial reference frame. So the ball in his diagram moves, and he's saying, well, you don't know whether or not you're moving. It's relative to the reference frame that you're describing. That would be the inertial reference frame that, in his example, the ball's moving through. But he's only doing that so he can then go on to describe you being in a non-inertial reference frame. Now, what does that mean? Non-inertial. Well, the easiest way for us to compare it to how we have arguments with reference frames is on the roundabout. Why would you describe it as non-inertial? Big shout out to Paula. She's changed her name again. So it's Bible U in the chat. She's one of my moderators. She's excellent. She broke this down for me about 4 years ago because I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Why would you call it non-inertial if you're moving? Well, it's because if you're sat on a roundabout, yeah, and the roundabout is turning, but you ignore your vestibular system, your sense of movement in that regard. Just forget about that for a second, just for the example. You're on a roundabout and you are moving, but you're not. Physically, you're stationary. You're not moving your muscles. You're not walking. You're not doing anything. You're still. Now, the roundabout's moving, but you are as one with that roundabout that is moving, right? Now, that description is you as part of a non-inertial reference frame. So if you looked at the ground, that's the roundabout, the ground is not moving. The ground you're standing on's not going anywhere. You're part of it, it's not moving anywhere. Yeah? Because you're part of the movement, non-inertial. Now, that frame of reference is, in the case of Coriolis, when it's described, the turning Earth. But like they're trying to get away from the fact that you don't experience it for the same exact reasons. Yeah, it's turning, but the ground you're actually standing on isn't moving. It's not like it's whipping away from you like a conveyor belt. You're part of it, so you don't notice it. Well, likewise, in his example, you won't notice that you're in a rocket hurtling through space because you're non-inertial. You're moving, but you don't know you're part of the rocket. That's why he's done it. So he's not actually describing two. He's just juxtaposing one with the other so that the example can now take place in a non-inertial reference frame on the rocket, hurtling through space, moving the scale back to zero. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, Nathan.
But given that it is the tendency of a body to continue in a straight path, constantly accelerating on a roundabout, whether you're going at the same speed or not, it just seems like it invalidates any explanation he's about to give.
Realizations is that you cannot distinguish between being accelerated in one direction and being under the influence of gravity.
Yep, so just sliding the scale.
From inside an elevator car, you couldn't tell whether it's sitting on the surface of the Earth or in deep space and being accelerated in the direction of the ceiling by 9.8 meters per second squared.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I say, yeah, you'd know.
In either case, if you let go of an object, it will accelerate toward the floor at the...
Oh, really? Where's my balloon gone? I'd do it every time while this balloon's still got some helium left in it. We'll hear it one more time so I can trim it out without having to do too much editing work. Let's grab my keyboard.
In the direction of the ceiling by 9.8 meters per second squared. In either case, if you let go of an object, it will accelerate toward the floor at that same rate.
It will not.
But from the perspective of the object, that is, in its inertial reference frame, the elevator car appears to be accelerating.
Oh, wow. So from the reference frame of the balloon, I was falling. Earth falling, proven. See that balloon going up? Yeah, from its vantage point, I was falling at 9.8 meters per second squared. And I'm attached to the ground, non-inertial. I mean, I wouldn't even notice, but I'm definitely falling at 9.8 meters per second. I mean, there's the clouds outside. Oh, my God. We are definitely falling. No, we're not.
Nathan,
Utterly absurd.
Nathan, doesn't this remind you when Zanuck always gave the perspective of the object?
Yeah, that's how they do it. Yeah, because you've then got a velocity or an acceleration or whatever you want to call it, or however it gets described, from the item in the inertial reference frame. So it's easy to then convolute somebody who doesn't understand the distinction between the two, which I didn't before Paula came along and explained it to me. Not you, hun.
Can we get the Wolfie distress call from the sky to the tower routine?
Ground control to Major Wolfie. We have a clown in a plane, and we have a man watching him from a non-inertial turning roundabout. Please make micro adjustments immediately.
Ceiling word. Einstein realized that rather than gravity being a force acting at a distance that accelerates freely moving objects downward, we have to say that instead, gravity puts us in a non-inertial accelerated reference frame. And we have to say that the surface is what's being accelerated upward.
I see. So Nathan Oakley, by contrast, says all things are tending upwards, and therefore we must assume, as this helium balloon goes up, that the ground is falling away at 9.8 meters per second per second. It's the only reasonable conclusion any reasonable man would come to. Obviously.
But why? What's special about inertial reference frames?
Well, it means you don't know when the ground's falling away from you 9.8 meters per second if we're in a non-inertial reference frame. It's very important that we understand this convoluted gaggle screw of nonsense in respect to a scale that's been slid one way so that we'd be floating if we didn't have the force of nothing happening.
It's because inertial reference frames are where the laws of mechanics take their simplest form. No external influences need to be taken into account.
When you say laws of mechanics, laws are merely descriptions of things that are actually occurring. This is a thought experiment. No law's going to apply to this because a law describes things that occur always. No, what's going to happen next is we're going to move into a pseudo-geometry, work outside the convention, so we can reify it into our existence, so we can have a scale of 1 when sod all is happening.
So, when you were sitting in a chair, you were quite literally being accelerated upward.
No. From my balloon's perspective, the ground's falling. 9.8 meters per second. I didn't even need to do it with a diagram. I did it live.
But you might be saying acceleration is a...
Go on, Chocolate.
Can you just play that again, just because it sounds so batshit crazy? Please.
Frames. It's because inertial reference frames are where the laws of mechanics take their simplest form. No external influences need to be taken into account. So, when you were sitting in a chair, you were quite literally being accelerated upward. But you might be saying acceleration is a change in velocity, and we aren't speeding up. But
you might say, sod all's happening.
Coffee cups.
You might say, nothing's happening, mate. Now, if you do say, sod all's happening, mate, I've got to come back for you, and this is it. Go on, Neil.
Did he kind of just say, you might say, what I just said was batshit crazy?
Yeah.
I just told you while sitting in a chair, you're accelerating upwards, but that's not what's happening.
Yeah, I might tell you.
Accelerating coffee cup, RC Meisty.
Yes, RC Meisty. But you're saying you might... Go on, Adam.
Let me go back again to his two mechanical examples, because he's had to invoke this thought experiment going into space to say where the mechanical laws are at their simplest. So in his viewpoint, they don't ever exist in reality, except of course they do, because what he does show you is an elastic collision in his little diagram. Those already exist here, which would be in denial of, of the forces trying to claim you're experiencing when sat on the chair, because those elastic collisions of mass, as he would describe them, are already occurring. He's saying there's a downward force. The only way you can exemplify those elastic collisions is to go in space. but they're already here, which therefore destroys the analogy he's trying to make by invoking a force for why you sit on a chair when the elastic collisions already occur.
Speeding up along a straight line is only the most familiar form of acceleration.
Yeah, you're clearly unaware of the acceleration you're undergoing when you're sat doing nothing, obviously, and he's going to point that out to you.
If you swing a ball in a circular manner, you're constantly accelerating it toward the center of the circle, even if it isn't speeding up or going anywhere in particular. If you let go, the ball gets flung off, and it begins traveling inertially. When you remove that real force, the ball goes from being accelerated to moving inertially. Similarly, when we're standing on the Earth, the ground is pushing us up with a real force.
No, it's not.
And if that force is removed, our body goes from being accelerated to...
No, he's just changed from saying that the ground was pushing up to the man being in what we would describe accurately as fall arrest. So then he's removed all of the earth, so now he's more dense than the air he's falling through until he reaches fall arrest again. But that isn't the same, is it?
To moving inertially. And then in that now inertial reference frame, we see the Earth accelerating upwards. Whether it's speeding up along a straight line, change.
Hang on, this is.
No,
We
let Adam
see the Earth accelerating upwards. Who's seen that?
Men who fall.
Light
No,
has
no.
gone into
Let me tell you.
space and
Let me
can
answer
see
10th
through
before you
the
get. Hold on, Adam.
ground
We
where
will
the
get to you, Adam.
tunnels
We will,
go.
Adam. We will get to you. But just answer 10th. Who's experiencing that? Men who fall down 3-mile tunnels go, oh my God, the Earth's moving up. That's what he's saying. Go ahead, Adam.
Well, then, is he not? No, I suppose it had the. You see, it's denying reality, isn't it? To make the claim that the guy thinks that the world's moving up around him. It's to deny all the other points of reference that you have. Again, why? Why are we doing this? This is only so they can describe this mathematically in a strange way, which is that easier to do, which is the Earth moving upwards. This seems to be how they're trying to describe the force, so they can describe it in a simple way, which, as I always say, the maths has to describe the reality. Otherwise, it's useless. Now, if we recognize that the Earth isn't moving up, but want to go to a simpler paradigm which describes it that way, we have to be honest with ourselves to say that this is not describing reality. So it's therefore useless.
Direction toward a center of rotation, or being pushed upward by a massive planet, any deviation from inertial motion is a real acceleration.
Hold on. Even in his diagram, the two either side of center are being pushed up in a linear fashion. The one in the center is being rotated. So you'd sense the one in the middle. If you're on a roundabout, you know about it. I had to make I mean, even me, who's responding to this, made the disclaimer that on my example for non-inertial and inertial, I have to ignore the fact that every fiber of me is telling me that I'm accelerating because I'm being rotated. But in his examples, he's saying, what, they're comparable? Now, on a spinning Earth, you definitely know about it.
And real acceleration requires...
Hang on.
Conflating here, the term acceleration, and they both are accelerations if that rocket is accelerating upwards and that's going round in circles. They both can be described as an acceleration. This is a switcheroo, because as you said, if I stick you in the gravimeter thing on the fairground, that's the force you're feeling from the acceleration caused by the rotation. Very different to the force you're supposedly feeling on a rocket accelerating up in space. One's a straight downwards, the other one is forcing you backwards, isn't it?
Didn't he just call the acceleration he's talking about a real acceleration? So wouldn't that mean he was talking about a fake one just now?
No, he's going to get
Can
onto
I
that in a
just-
minute. The pseudo aspect he's trying to weasel in at this early stage. He's
So,
wrong, but
Dell
he's
is trying to-
weaseling. he's wrong, but he's greasing the skids for the pseudo geometry that's coming. That's all he's doing, Chocolate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dell,
Go on, Neil.
Dell is trying to say a flat Earth is moving up. This guy is trying to say a planet is moving up, but the antipodal people are moving up at the same time that the opposite hemisphere is moving up.
Oh, it's riddled.
Fire is a real force. In fact, when you step on a scale, you aren't directly measuring your mass. You're measuring the force required to accelerate you out of your inertial path toward the center of the Earth.
I see. And how does that work with
Wow.
my helium balloon on the ceiling right now? What does that do on the scale? Does it know that it's just being stopped from falling? Oh, it isn't falling.
It measures that. Then the helium balloon on the scales would measure how far the Earth's falling away at that rate, wouldn't it? This is the switcheroo, isn't it? We're now trying to have this weight on a scale expressed by some force. The causation of it is a force. Whether it's applied one way or the other, upwards or downwards, whether it's the magic pull of gravity or the relativity of an accelerating Earth, they're still trying to invoke a force. Why, when you pick something up and then drop it, or you take a helium balloon and let it go, well, the helium balloon ruins it. They can't comprehend that in the mathematics, can they?
No.
It's only when you pick things up and drop it.
Exactly. Right, we've got just over 90 people, as I said that, watching. Be great to get over 100 people watching. So obviously there's some new people who have joined us because the people who called to action earlier have shared the show. Thank you very much for doing so. If you've just joined us, thank you very much for doing so. You've probably smashed one of those share links that have been put out by the people who are already here. Thank you to them. Thank you to you. Please share the show if you haven't done so already. Also, that's the other call of action. I knew there should have been a pause there. We're going to give you the link to this guy's video, EdwardCurrant, and just let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Hopefully, he would respond and share the algorithmic YouTube love that we do not receive as flat earthers, disseminating the truth about pseudo-geometry in this respect from Einstein, which we'll get into now. But you can probably see it going by in the live stream chat. Hopefully, you'd respond in kind and put my link in his video if he did do a response. But go and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Obviously, come back if you're watching live.
But thanks to another one of Newton's laws, that force is proportional to your mass. A scale wouldn't measure your weight in deep space unless your ship happens to be accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared.
So in that scenario, what happens when I release a gas into the availability of volume inside the spaceship? Does it just behave like gas, expanding in all directions, all vectors, all very, very fast? Yeah, it does.
The gas would fill the available volume.
Right. That crap's all over this. That's the end of this discussion. So, whoa, where's the pseudo-Riemannian geometry? Whoa. We didn't get any Einstein geometry. That's the end. 10th, have a word, sunshine. You led me to believe that at the end of that process, he'd be disseminating his knowledge about pseudo-Riemannian. He didn't even mention it.
Yeah, this was done just to show that Dell's position of, in his case, a flat Earth moving up is really a continuation of Einstein's globe Earth moving up.
Fair enough. I've just released a video to the general public, mainly because not having to fight with the computer, I've now got, it's like famine to feast. I can do as much editing as I want. So I've been churning out videos. I've got a few too many to cover over the weekend. I thought, well, one's been out for the members for 2 or 3 days. I'll just stick that one out this morning. So at least it's out there. Because you don't want to keep covering the same stuff over and over again. Yes, there's plenty of meat on the Dell bone. And there was plenty of meat on the Jaren bone. In fact, there's still a video I've not even finished. But I may not bother. It's like once you've stripped off all the best morsels, sometimes you can just leave the rest of the carcass to the wolves. And in this case, you know, there's a certain amount of stuff from the Dell discussion that I do want out in the public domain, not just out for members. The same goes for Jaren in a different way though, because for the video that is actually published to members, it's one of them where in the moment while I was making it, I'm furious because I'm peeved at Jaren. I'm not going to hide my disapproval for him claiming we're scammers because we disseminate the truth about science and how it proves things. You know, and I was expressing that perhaps a little bit more strenuously than I wanted, because the day after I'm like, no, in the same sentiment to Bob Nodell's death, leading me to reflect on how I could no longer appeal to him in regards to how science proves things. Jaron, on the other hand, still very much alive, so I can still appeal to him in that regard, and I should keep that in the back of my mind rather than expressing my personal disdain in regards to how I personally will have lost money, lost subscribers, lost all personal things that, frankly, the audience couldn't give a crap about. I mean, the ones that care do, but, you know, but back onto Dell. I have just released a video in that regard. So that video is called Beyond the BS Rising Earth or something like that. Anyway, that's just come out. Go and check it out if you're you don't need to be a member. It's public now. Yeah, so anybody can go check that out. It's on the main channel, Nathan Oakley 1980. So the most recent video, if you go click on the videos tab. Good?
No, the
For
problem
example-
is, Nathan, one second.
For
The
example,
problem is,
I
and
know
I've
for
been
sure.
told that. Go ahead.
No, you had the mic. Go, Neil, go. Sasha will wait. No, he's missed his
I said the problem is you did not answer Dell's questions and he's feeling like you were being dishonest. He asked you, are you claiming the earth is stationary? And you did not answer. So that's what they're saying now, that you were being dishonest.
I see. So Dell said, you're saying there are no unicorns. So you've got a positive claim of no unicorns. Yeah,
I
QE
still
and I
don't
discussed
believe
this
this is a thing.
last night. You can't prove non-existence, Neil. You're saying we're not accelerating. No, acceleration of the ground I'm standing on is an extraordinary claim. Saying nothing's happening when nothing's happening isn't extraordinary. Like in the example we just had, the guy's got to get around the fact and explain with a thought experiment in a rocket, in a sky vacuum, to explain why the scale, when nothing's happening, is actually Earth moving up, pushing against you. Yeah,
Right.
that's the extraordinary claim requiring apologetics. I don't have any claim.
It's an
Earth not
extraordinary
moving isn't a claim or a non-claim. It's nothing. Nothing's happening.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with Oakland. These are things that we observe. Why do we have to make a claim on them? That some things go down.
We're
some
not.
things remain neutral. Some things
We're
go
not.
up.
Neither is.
We're not,
It's
both
a
of you.
phenomenological
Both of you.
fallacy.
Hello. You're both falling victim to the same thing. This idea that when some idiot comes along with an absolutely outrageous claim, that the contrapositive, in this case, nothing happening, becomes your positive claim to defend. No, it isn't. You just hold the dickhead who's
not a
got a really...
claim.
Shut up. You just hold the dickhead that's got the really outrageous claim to task on their outrageous claim. Like I did with Dell. And he's like, I'm going to expose you, your contradictions. In what? I haven't made a claim about anything here. You are claiming Earth moves up. An outrageous claim that definitely needs a lot of proof. But is it easier if you start getting me to defend my positive assertion that nothing's bloody happening? Yeah, I bet that's a lot easier. Me, I don't tolerate that, Neil. When someone makes an outrageous claim, I don't suddenly feel the need to defend the contrapositive to that claim, or, in this case, the fact that nothing's bloody happening.
Well, Nathan, I have an alternative. I have an alternative idea.
Wait
What
one
if
second.
a unicorn was running up a mountain cliff and pulling the Earth underneath it? Would that be better?
First of all, hold on. I didn't say that. I agree with you. And it's not a claim, but you can't deny that we do witness these things. It's observed daily.
What's observed daily, Neil? Nothing happening.
No, it's everything happening that is caused by the presupposition, the formological fallacy.
So there's no rain clouds up there. There's no rain clouds up.
Yeah, but that's
Rain's not
also
being-
caused
hold
by
on.
the Earth accelerating up. Everything you see exactly how it is caused by the Earth accelerating up. That's the stupid claim. You can't vary it.
Yeah.
It's just a fantasy claim.
Exactly. There's a good reason why, when I boiled it down to brass tacks with Dell and said, is your claim that Earth moves up? He did not want to just say yes. That is his absurd, outrageous claim. But when it's said out loud, it sounds it, doesn't it? So you say Earth moves up? Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's when the laughter comes, because it sounds and is really stupid.
He made yesterday a video and he's calling you out. I don't know if you saw it.
No,
Well,
I don't
you know
watch
what?
Dell. I've got no interest in anything he's got to offer. And I think he's sick.
He lost yesterday 3 subscribers, what I know.
He lost 3 subscribers yesterday, you say? I don't care.
I
say
know.
that. I said that to him.
Sorry, I'm one of them, and I know 2 of them for sure because also they said, "Sasha, we are not anymore. Bye bye." What the fuck he's saying?
I see. So he's well. I did say that to him personally. I was like, "You are losing subscribers as a result of this," because, like I say, go and check out the video I've just released. He's asked what he's going to do about his denial of the clouds, and he's got absolutely nothing but to call me plastic and tell me to take my tampon out. That's what he's got in response to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of sighing.
Yeah, that's the question. What atmosphere is doing that's happening when Earth is going up? Does rotating together with the Earth and going up in the same time? Wow.
Right. Yeah,
wow.
it's absurd.
Clouds staying there, going together with the Earth.
Exactly. Well, likewise, although we're now referring this just to Dell, one of our own, I want to pour scorn on Dell. Dell, as Adam pointed out, has done some bloody good work, and more power to him, and every respect that he deserves for doing it. Same goes to Jaren or anybody else that we were critiquing in the moment for something that they've said that's stupid. Now, yeah, I'm going to ham it up and pour as much passion into it as I can to make my point as strong as it could be, because my point's right. The Earth's not moving up. It's outrageous to claim it, and he needs to damn well prove it. But likewise, when someone
prove it.
But likewise, when we've got a discussion with the video we covered today, you can pull it apart with gas behaviour. That's all I did with Dell. It was, packaged up nicely with him puffing and not having anything to respond to, which looks awful. And that's why he's going to lose subscribers. I said that to him. Well, he's hung around to tell me I'm plastic and tell me that I'm a woman because I'm not having the discussion when I'm very specifically trying to get him onto why he says we should ignore the clouds. But he doesn't want to have the discussion he's telling me I don't want to have. Right? Well, that's devastating. If you're hearing that, you go, come on, Dell. If you're on his side, come on. Tell him. Prove to him why the Earth's moving up. I've bought this crap from you. Now make him believe like I believed. And as he fails, they feel that sinking feeling. And then they get annoyed and go, fuck you, Dell. I'm going to unsubscribe, you bastard. Deceiving me with this stupid shit. You couldn't convince Nathan with it. What crock of crap.
Or they get angry. Or they get angry with Nathan and think he's a dirty straw manning. Uses the mute button. Kind of. The claims that dude made about you.
No, you haven't heard the video clearly. No.
Come on.
No. When there's lots, like at least half a dozen protracted silences, with Dell saying you don't want to have the discussion, me saying, okay, in the discussion, we got to you saying, don't worry about the clouds. Let's carry on from there. And then there's a long protracted silence. So, I mean, that Martin Leak, whatever he's called, guy was like, you don't allow the discussion. You don't allow the debate. This isn't a debating platform in the comments. Well, okay, go and check out that video and listen to Dell, who's been disseminating this outrageous claim that Earth moves up, have absolutely no comeback. Long protracted silence. Tell me I'm muting him then. When there's a long time, yeah, it's me muting him, giving a really good explanation for why Earth moves up. No, it's him moving uncomfortably in his seat, only responding to the cup of tea he's getting, not answering the questions, and huffing when it's absolutely clear he's heard that his response about, no, you don't worry about the clouds, Jimmy, is being parroted back to him. He's got nothing. So if you thought Dell could prove Earth's moving up, go and listen to him have nothing. And you blame the mute button when he's totally silent, dumbfounded, cat got his tongue.
Nathan, when they say things like that, what they're actually saying is you're not allowing them to spew their rhetoric. Same thing you did, Rumpus. You didn't allow them
I know
to
that,
spew
Neil.
his nonsense.
I got that, Neil. But I'm saying When the response to me saying, so we're going to ignore the clouds, Del, is a long protracted silence, you're going to tell me that my detractors are going to come back at me saying I muted him? No. He just didn't have anything to come back at me with. Because what's he going to say? When I release a helium balloon, Del's argument dies on its arse. That's it.
Never mind the clouds.
Clouds, helium balloon, it makes no difference. The point is that he hadn't got a response. Now, if you're rooting for him, and in the argy-bargy because he's kept the momentum for long enough, it seems like I'm just getting my point through over the top of Del, then you'll blame the mute button. Meanwhile, if there's long, protracted silences after he says, you don't want to have the discussion, Nathan, I go, okay, you want to have the discussion. Last thing we got to is, the clouds, I'm not going to worry about them according to Del, when he says that we've got to worry about why things tend to the ground, because he's given me a lie of a quote I haven't said, where I described the potential energy making everything go down. Now, when he paraphrased something I'd never said, I responded to my own non-quote that he gave me with, what about the clouds? And he said, never mind the clouds. And that's where it ended. And for about 40 minutes, he decided, like a total idiot, to persist. But the persistence left him in dumbfounded silences and threatening me, saying that if I was in front of him, I wouldn't be talking to him in that way, inferring that I'd somehow be fearful of his overarching demeanour and presence. Nah, again, I illustrated to him that I'd laugh in his face like I'm laughing now, because I'd just have to say to him, no, Dal, you look at the clouds and no Earth's not rising up, Dumbo. What are you going to do, thump me because I point out how stupid you are? Go ahead, dickhead.
Well, the other gripe was he did post a video where you were quoting that, and it wasn't played.
You're going to tell me that he's got a verbatim quote like I asked him for?
I told you, it's not verbatim like that.
So that's a no.
Somewhat
So
in
when
there,
I
but
said Del's a liar, those words have not crossed my lips in that order. Del is still factually a liar then?
Correct.
Yeah. So when I say, quote, Del, I like small children, I like them long time, end quote, that's totally unreasonable because those words didn't cross Del's lips in that order. So when Del says, quote, bullshit from Nathan he's never said, end quote, I can call him a liar and be factually true. Not only did I say put quotes around it, I used the term verbatim. If it's not, he's a liar because he actually put quotes around it.
Isn't it interesting that all we're talking about is this now rather than his claim?
Yeah, because that's his tactic, isn't it? It's worked. He's got me, even when he's not here. Yeah, well done, Del. You can put that as a tick against the several hundred I got.
Right, but that's what we do with anti-flat earthers too. I mean, their actual argumentation is figured out pretty quickly how they reason out. So we always go for like, what are they actually doing? What are they trying to do? And Del here was clearly looking for a fight. Everything he did, he didn't care to find the end result of what is really true. He was here to get us, to get you, Nathan. That's what he was doing. He didn't care.
FED banned.
Hold on. Arwen's half right. The bit that Adam summarised actually made it to the video because Adam's summary was absolutely spot on. He doesn't care if he proves Earth's going up. The guy's a shill. He's here to cause chaos and make flat earthers, because he's one of them apparently, look like total idiots as we argue amongst ourselves. And Del says that we're exposing ourselves and contradicting ourselves about a non-topic that makes us all look stupid. That works wonders. You can fuck the whole thing up from the inside, can't you, Del? No, you got exposed when you got here by me.
Yeah, let me go against you, Nathan, for a minute. What you just said right there, 100% back you. But you said earlier that, hey, Del's done a lot of good work in the past, and he's a flat earther. But now look at what he's doing now. So this feast of nonsense that you're exposing from these formerly good YouTube producers of content on flat earth that have done and moved this topic forward is no longer applicable to them. Now what they're doing is they're muddying the waters so that when someone comes and says, hey, one of you flat earthers think that the Earth is moving up. Hey, one of you flat earthers think dielectric this. One of you flat, and so and this is what the separation is healthy and needed for. So keep at it, and don't worry about what they were in the past. What are they now? And they either are spewing out truth with claims that they can back, or they're muddying the waters.
And elbowing, right? Elbowing game. I want to be on top of this.
Well, I don't know the motive. It seems that way for sure, Arwen. But again, the claims is where either they can stand or fall.
With that, I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Also, of course, a massive thank you to all of you for smashing the super chat, gifting memberships, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. If you're watching this on a Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there'll be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!